Hello and welcome to the Futures Lab. So if you're experiencing a certain problem where when you start the game, it takes just a few seconds before it will start accepting your clicks, like we start it now and I click, and I click, and I click again, and I eventually get there, I'm like, why is there that delay? To solve that problem, it's a very easy way of doing that, and I may have covered this before already, but I can't remember. So just to be safe, what you need to do is you need to go to your card sprite, you need to look for define create list. Now if you remember, this is the code that makes sure that there's a working list in place to keep track of which cards all the blank cards should be when we flip them over. And this actually has to run a couple of times until we make sure that there's enough items in the list. So if this is taking two, and then only after this is done does the player control get set to yes. So if you right click on define create list and edit, if this button here, run without screen refresh, isn't clicked, make sure it's ticked. Make sure you've clicked it so it's all blue and it's got that tick in there. And once you've done that, you'll notice that when you run, you can instantaneously start clicking on cards pretty much every time. When you have a define, a make, a my block, a define something, you have this ability to run it without the screen refresh, which means it will happen a lot faster. It will happen sometimes instantaneously. So this is good for some things, like running without screen refresh, like something boring, like making a list. You can have that happen instantaneously. But other things, you actually want it to happen a bit slower, like a character moving. If a character moved instantaneously from one side of the screen to the other, then you wouldn't want to use that particular setting on your my blocks. Now, on to the main event. We are going to create ending cards for our game. A winning end screen, game over screen, and a losing game over screen. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a new sprite. I'm going to go to the bottom right corner of the screen, go up to where it says paint, and we should have our painting screen in front of us. We're going to make a red rectangle. Now you can create whatever graphics you like. I'm going to call, and then we're going to rename this costume in the top left corner here as lose. And then I'm going to paint a new one and call that win. So I'm just choosing very kind of standard colors here. You can choose to do different things if you want. I quite like that actually. So if you want to put on some effects like we did for the cards, you can. If you want to draw something, you can. But don't put on any you win or you lose text, because we're going to animate that separately. So we've got our nice backgrounds. What we are going to need to do is go to the code for our sprite 1. We're going to rename this sprite 1 as game over. Okay, so there are a few different ways that we can do this, but the way that I think will work best is if we just go to events, the yellow category, and drag out when green flag clicked. So what we're going to need to do is this game over screen is going to decide when we've won and when we've lost. So how are we going to figure that out? Well, losing is easy. We already have a variable called lives, and if that variable lives goes below 1, so to 0 or even something lower somehow, then you've lost the game. But how are we going to see when we've won the game? So looking back at our variables, we have a variable called card counter. And this is the variable that keeps track of how many cards we have. So what we can actually do is put a bit of code into our card sprite that will tick this down as we are losing cards, as they are deleting themselves. So before we do any more in our game over screen code, let's go to the card code. And let's have a look around until we find our when I receive correct. So I'm going to zoom in on this for you, so that you need to make sure that you're in your card sprite and look for when I receive correct. So this is the code that happens for the 2 cards that have been turned over, and we've seen that they match, so they will delete themselves. We've got at the very end, delete this clone. We've already got code in that makes sure that it's only the cards that have been flipped over, so that's all fine, that can all stay the same. All we need to do is look for a change variable by. So we've even got change card counter by 1, drag that out and put it right above delete this clone, and then click on that 1 and type in -1. So let's see if it works. So now when we flip over 2 cards that match, I've got to find 2 that match now, don't I? Watch what happens with the card counter. We're down to 26. 2 cards got taken away, and now we have 2 less cards. And now it's down to 24, and eventually what will happen is we will get all the way to 0. And if we get to 0, we've won the game. Nice and easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our game over screen sprite. Now what we need this to do is we need this to be hidden. So we're going to go to looks, and we're going to look down until we find the hide, and put that underneath when green flag clicked. We need it to hide. Okay, that's good. Now what we need to do is we need to wait until either our card counter variable has gone down to 0 or less, or our lives variable has gone down to 0 or less. But before we do that, we should give the game a few seconds to set up to make sure it's got both of those variables created. Otherwise, when you start the game, before we have any cards counted, the game over screen will be like, oh, there are no cards left, game over. So we're going to put in something very simple. We're going to go to control and put in a wait 1 second. That should be enough, I reckon. 1 second should be enough for the game to sort out all of its variables. If we need to, we can increase this to 2 or 3 seconds, because you can't win the game in 3 seconds. So that's a pretty safe wait to put in. Now we're going to put in a wait until. So look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down, and get out a wait until. So there's actually 2 different ways the game can end. So we are going to use an OR operator. So let's go to the green category, operators, and drag out OR. It's here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the top. So we've got something or something. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get out a less than operator. That's one of these here. It's one of the arrows pointing towards the left, pointing towards the empty of the 2 little sockets. And we're going to go to, and we're going to get out another one as well. So we've got 2 less than operators. Oh, just put them off by themselves for now. And we're going to go to variables, and we're going to get out card counter and put that in one of our less than operators like that. So, and then we're going to say if card counter less than 1. So that means 0 or less than 0. Now, most of the time, the game shouldn't let you get to less than 0, but this is a safe thing to do, just to make sure that in case something weird happens in your code, like you end up going into -1 life or something, that the game still understands you've lost the game. So we're going to get out lives. Now you might think heart counter is what we want, but no, we actually need it to be lives is less than 1. And then we're going to drag one of these less than operators into one of the sockets of our OR, and the other one goes into the other socket of the OR. And then this whole thing, grab it from the middle where the word OR is, put the whole thing into wait until. So now we are waiting until either the card counter has gotten to less than 1 or our lives have gotten to less than 1. So that's good. We now need the game over screen to show itself, and to do that, we're going to go to control, and we're going to get out an if then else. So now we've got our if then else. We need to see, have we won the game or have we lost the game? So you can, if you just look for your card counter less than 1, put your mouse over the little less than symbol, that little arrow pointing towards the left, right click, normal click on duplicate, and now I should have this additional little card counter less than 1. Or you can make it from fresh, that works too. We need if card counter less than 1. We've won the game, else we've lost the game. So we're going to go to looks, we're going to get out show, we're going to put it inside underneath our if, and we're going to get another show and put it underneath our else, because we need to show no matter, doesn't matter either way. We could even actually put the show right underneath the wait until if we wanted, but for now let's stick with this way. Now let's get out switch costume. So we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from the top, switch costume, and put it underneath the show, underneath our if card counter less than 1, then show switch costume to win. That's what we want, that's good. And then get out a switch costume to lose to go underneath the else. So let's test this out, shall we? Let's see if we can lose. I'm just going to do this over and over again. Now, as I'm testing this, you'll notice it's taking me a while. So this is kind of annoying and tedious. So after this, rather than me trying to spend, the next 3 minutes or something trying to win a game and wasting your time, I'm going to show you a faster way to test this kind of thing. But there we go, we ran out of lives. You can see that we only had 1 heart left in red, and now when we run out of lives we have the red screen come up, which is exactly what we want. Now what we're going to need to, and when we start the game it's hidden again. Yeah, good, that's what we want. Okay, so let's put in some code that will just help us test our code. So go to control, in fact actually let's go to events and grab out when space key pressed, and then let's go to variables and get out set card counter to 0. So, and you can change this if you want to be set lives to 0 so that you can test that. So now when I hit the spacebar, it sets the lives variable to 0, and you can see, aha, yeah, good, my code is working. And if I start again, and if I set the card counter to 0, turned blue. Perfect, that's exactly what we want. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make some animated text to go over our game over screen. So we're going to go to events, and we're going to look for broadcast. Pull out a broadcast. Actually, let's test something. Yes. So what we need to do is we need to get our broadcast, and we've got our show switch costume to win. So we're going to click on this white triangle next to where this broadcast is. Click on new message and type in you win. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get out a broadcast and put it underneath switch costume to lose and change that to new message, you lose. Okay, perfect. There's other ways of doing this, but this way works fine for now. So I'm going to show you some cool things to do with some animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the bottom right corner. We're going to go up to paint a new sprite. And we're going to name this sprite Game Over Text. And we're going to click on this little text tool. You can choose whichever font you want. I'm going to say you lose. And we're going to rename this costume to lose. And then in the top left corner, I'm going to right click on the you lose and duplicate, or you can just draw a new one if you want, that's fine. But we're going to rename this to win, and I'm going to change this text to you win, exclamation mark. I'll make it a nice bit bigger. So you can have a bit of fun with this. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you the code to make this text appear over our background. And then next week, I'm going to show you some cool animations we can do with our game over screen. So for now, let's just get our text doing what we need it to. Let's go to events, and this is the code that we're going to put in our game over text sprite. So drag out when green flag clicked, go to the dark blue category motion, because we want to make sure that this is in the middle of the screen. In fact, we might even want to do something similar with our game over screen, but for now, let's not worry about that. Let's get out go to X and Y, and there should be some numbers in there. Type in 0 and 0 so that when you start the game, the you lose and you win is right in the middle there. And we need to hide this, obviously. So we need to go to the purple category, looks, and drag out hide. That goes underneath our go to X0, Y0. And then what we'll do is we'll go to our events and we'll pull out when I receive you lose, and we'll pull out when I receive you win. Make sure you've got the you lose broadcast and you win broadcast, not correct and incorrect, which do something very different. Those are more to do with individual card choices. So we've got our when I receive you lose and when I receive you win. So we're going to go to the purple category, looks. We're going to get out a show and put one under each of these. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab out go to front layer and put that underneath our show. Go to front layer. That's this purple one here near the bottom of our show codes. So there we've got it. So let's see. If I hit go, you lose message is gone, And do you remember I put in when space key pressed set card counter to 0, so we can test to see when I hit space, we should get a you win screen. Oh, you lose. Well, what we need to do then is we need to make sure that we're changing the costume. So we need to go to looks, and we need to get switch costume to win and switch costume to lose, and put them underneath their right bits of code. So now we've got when I receive you lose, show go to front layer, switch costume to lose. When I receive you win, show switch costume to win and go to front layer. So let's check this out now. We start the game, I hit the space bar, you win. And if I rig up some code very quickly to instead set the lives to 0, you lose. Perfect! So we've got our end cards done there, and that's obviously fine. That looks fine as it is, and you can do some different art if you want. You can get some background or do some drawing on some of these screens. You could have a little cartoon character, like a little cartoon Scratch going, ah, oh no, or yay, I win. But for now, don't put anything into the text costumes, because I'm going to show you how to animate this text to make it a lot more visual. And I think what we might do as well in the next week, have some falling cards animations in the background. I think that'll be really nice. So that's everything for this week. I hope you had fun. As always, you can subscribe to see the next episode, ring the bell, do all that stuff. We might be doing some more live streams in the future. I don't know when. It all depends on my schedule at the Futures Lab. If you subscribe and ring the bell, then you'll get notified when we're going to do a live stream. The last one, I didn't give you a lot of notice, so don't panic. For the next one, I'll make sure that there's plenty of notice, unless we go into some lockdown again and we decide to do an impromptu one just for fun. If you live in Perth, Australia, check out the description in the YouTube video. We've got all of our activities that are happening at City of Swan Libraries. And so until I see you guys next week, stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.